Good morning, everyone. Good evening. I guess it's good evening. I guess it depends on where you live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever. Hi, my name is Onepeg. We have patch notes. So I'm going to go through those with a fine-tooth comb. I'll offer some insight, some explanation around what these patch notes are talking about. There's some interesting summarized stuff here. First, there is some side grade stuff going on with rogues. Dagger Mastery got nerfed a little bit. The physical damage bonus got nerfed, but dagger base damage went up. Rangers and fighters had the crossbow nerfed, but the longbow buffed, and Rangers got a buff to their cooldowns for just about every skill that they use. There's a new weapon that we're having added. There's some new magical resistance stuff, and Wizards kind of got nerfed in a way that I don't really understand. They reduced damage to magic missiles, probably because of barrel stuffing other players, and they reduced damage and the AoE area for Lightning Strike. So I'm not exactly sure what the thought process was there. Lightning Strike was hitting pretty hard, but I never really felt like Wizard was overpowered. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. There's also a couple of side grade things in here and a slight buff to bards, but we'll get into it. And as always, what I'm going to do is once this is up and the patch is live, when the patch goes live, I will try to be live as soon as the patch is live so that we can experience all the differences and changes and do some testing and see what it's all about. Okay? All right, here we go. Okay, I did have some people in my comments before that were mentioning the ability to be able to see things as I'm going through them, so I tried to blow this up a good amount so that the people that had some accessibility needs had the ability to be able to view this. We're going to start Hotfix 25 starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my time, with a 30-minute delay in the start. So this is beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is currently 8:48, and then it will be down for 5 hours. So Eastern Standard Time, that means that the servers come back up somewhere around 2 a.m., assuming that there won't be a delay. During maintenance, obviously, all services are down. Now, into the changes, we have a bunch of bug fixes. Friend invitation stuff, frame drops, praise and punish could not be given when using the karma system. Halberd. Fix an issue where the halberd had the same damage ratio across all parts. What this is referring to is the sweet spot and sour spots of weapons. All different weapons have a sweet spot, like the head of a mace or the blade of a sword. Something like a falchion is like the top third or so. The tip of the sword hitting your opponent does 100% of its listed damage. And then it scales down based on whether or not you hit further down, like the shaft of a pole arm, for instance, like the halberd or a bardiche, or you handle hit with a sword or a mace, something like that. In this case, the halberd, for the longest time now, has been bugged to where it didn't have a sour spot. It sweet spot hit for every part of it, which is why if people knew about this, they tended to abuse it, and all you had to do was hit with the thing anywhere on somebody, and it did 100% damage. So somebody like a warlock, for instance, would use Blow of Corruption very commonly with the halberd specifically for that reason, and people were always wondering how it was that they hit so hard. That's why. So I'm glad that this was fixed. Fix an issue where players were unable to properly climb above the royal coffin. There has always been like a box issue. The collision area around the coffin was always bigger than the visual representation of the coffin. It was always really hard to jump on top of it. It always was kind of weird. So I'm glad that they fixed this. A lot of spawn point stuff, burn volume. Fixed an issue where the burn volume of Inferno Death Altar module was not the correct size. Equipped items would be incorrectly displayed in the tavern. Fixed an issue where previously selected quests would sometimes remain selected. Magical shields no longer stack with each other and are overwritten by new ones. So this is important. People were able to chain cast magical shields on themselves or have multiple people cast shields on each other. Like you had a group of 2 or 3 warlocks, you could cast shields on each other and double and triple up on them. The armor rating curve table has been updated at the very upper range. There's no word on whether or not the armor rating is being increased or decreased. We'll have to see what that curve looks like. The magical power curve table has been updated, so more will is required for magical damage. So this is a nerf to magical damage bonus. This could possibly mean that points in magical power could end up being more beneficial to us than using will stacking. I don't know exactly how this is going to affect it, but what it sounds like is on the curve, it means that the percentage increase bonuses are going to start becoming, the diminishing returns on those are going to be less earlier. So yeah, cast are getting nerfed a little bit. Rogue Dagger Mastery physical power bonus has been changed to from 20% to 15%. So the physical power bonuses, it looks like they're nerfing those curves on both ends. Rogue's Cutthroat cooldown changed from 14 to 18 seconds, so a nerf to Cutthroat. Duration changed from 5 to 4 seconds, another nerf to Cutthroat. Shadowrunner movement speed bonus changed from 15% to 10%. So this is interesting. Rogue Rushdown is also getting nerfed here. Ranger's Quickfire cooldown changed from 24 to 18 seconds, buff to Ranger. Quick Shot cooldown changed from 28 to 22 seconds, another buff to Ranger. Multi-Shot cooldown changed from 28 to 22 seconds. Forceful Shot cooldown changed from 24 to 18 seconds, and Penetrating Shot 24 to 18 seconds. So again, big nerfs to rogues, nerfs to magical power and physical power bonuses from what it appears to be anyway. Rogue physical power bonus anyway. And then buffs to Ranger cooldowns, which I find interesting. Cleric, Earthquake, and Locust Swarm spell counts increased back to 2. And then we have Wizard nerfs. Lightning Strike damage reduced by 5 points to 30, and its area of effect range reduced from 100 to 75. So the circle, when you cast Lightning Strike on the ground, is now smaller. Wizard's Magic Missile damage reduced from 12 to 9. Wizard's Magic Missile damage reduced from 12 to 9. That is a massive nerf for Magic Missile. Massive nerf. That's a 30% decrease in damage output for Magic Missile. Base Kit Wizard is going to end up having some problems with this outside of vanilla. It probably won't matter all that much to people that have been able to farm gold or people that are capable of farming gold, but it puts more reliance on the magic staff earlier and keeps wizards away from spell books earlier for whatever reason. I don't know what the reasoning behind this is. It's probably something to do with wizards' ability to barrel stuff people if they end up on top of somebody. The most common thing that wizards will do is light up a magic missile and then just try to barrel stuff somebody with it if they get in their face. It's a good counter to most melee classes. So a 30% reduction in that damage is pretty considerable. It allows people a little bit more survivability when they're attacking them up close, but this looks a little bit heavy-handed to me. Wizards' magic missiles can no longer pierce shields. There wasn't a whole lot of ability for them to pierce them to begin with. I'm not exactly sure why this tooltip is in there. There was the ability to do like a little bit of like bleed through damage, but it wasn't all that much. Again, I'm not sure what the big deal is here. Bard's music performance has been updated to end as soon as the last note is played instead of carrying through the remainder of the song. Most bards never really had a problem with this anyway because they would just play the song until they had the sour note with the talent and then they would just end it. Bard's music duration readjusted to play the base duration relative to a persuasion rating of 15 instead of 20. The speed at which the music gets generated. So based on the dexterity stat. So that dexterity stat plays into the persuasion ability for Bard, like how quickly the song gets played through. This being reduced to 15 from 20 means that the spell's like base speed is going to be affected earlier on. Like the points in dexterity that are gained will make the spells play faster than what they were like as a base standpoint. So this is good. This means that the benefit to dexterity for bards is more. The spells, the music will get played faster. Bard's Accelerando and Allegro base duration time has been adjusted. Again, we don't know if that's an increase or a decrease. Damage for all daggers has been increased. So while the dagger mastery power bonus has been reduced by 15% or 5%, the base damage for all daggers getting increased, I suppose, is good. The options for all copper, cobalt, and ruby silver items have been adjusted, and the detrimental options have now been removed. Like magical interaction speed for a rogue, for the most part, is something that no one cares about. So if that's getting rolled on like a ruby silver leather item, that's something that people are going to be like, well, this is worthless. Why would I bother burning the ingots or the powders or whatever on these pieces of gear? So if they've removed some of those stat options, this is good. This is a bigger W, because that makes the crafting gear more valuable than it already was, and it means that people that are working their way through quests in order to be able to get these unlocks have a greater benefit for doing so. It makes the quests more valuable for doing them. So this is good. This is a W. Crossbow's damage has been reduced. Thank God. Crossbow damage has been way too high for way too long. Hopefully it's like a good 2 or 3 points at least, especially in the hands of a ranger with a lot of physical power bonus. Way, way too strong. I've been saying that for a long time. Longbow damage has been increased. Now this, I kind of shake my head at. It's a head scratcher moment. I don't really know why they would have done that, but it is what it is. Longsword damage has been slightly increased. So this is fine. I think it's a good trade-off for the movement speed. Viking sword damage has been increased. I don't know why they're bothering with that. It seems like Viking swords were doing plenty of damage before, especially in the hands of a barbarian. It's kind of whatever. Crystal Ball's movement speed penalty has been reduced from -25 to -15. This is a massive dub, especially in the hands of a Warlock, especially for a Wizard. And I will tell you why. So when they changed the crystal ball stuff very recently on the Warlock patch, and they added crystal balls back to the menu for Warlocks on their base kit, and you were given a crystal ball, it only added 1 point of damage. But what it also did was add weapon damage to the base crystal ball. Crystal balls have always had weapon damage on the tooltip, but it never worked. It never actually gave the weapon damage. Now it does. As of Hotfix 24, the crystal ball's weapon damage was brought back in, and it actually was applying it. So this, having a lower movement speed, makes the crystal ball kind of great again and puts it in a position where it can actually work. Because the cast animation for the crystal ball is actually the shortest of all 3 animations. So the crystal ball, because it's just raised up in the air and then the stuff flies out, is very, very quick. It's faster than that of the spellbook. So it's worth using, and the problem with it was always the movement speed penalty, and I never understood why. So I'm glad that they are bringing this back in. This makes crystal balls valuable. It makes them a viable option now, and it's something that Warlocks and Wizards can go back to using, and Wizards now using daggers with the added weapon damage on the crystal ball. It now becomes possible to make a crystal ball dagger build that will actually end up doing work. So this is a very, very big dub. Longsword's movement speed penalty has been reduced from -40 to -30. So now we have a faster moving longsword and a higher damaging longsword, which is good. Short sword movement speed penalty has been increased from -10 to -13. And the movement speed penalty when attacking with a short sword changed from 10% to 25%. Now, these are both rogue nerfs. The biggest thing that a rogue would use when they're trying to run somebody down and kill them is a short sword, both for the damage output, the fast swing, and also because the movement speed penalty was a lot less pronounced. So a rogue could run behind somebody and just hold down right click and slash them away, and they never really lost a step. In this case, it makes the ability to peel the rogue off from attacking possible. This is good. This means that like a cleric in plate, when they put their book away or put away their weapon and shield, they can actually like run away a little bit from the rogue that's trying to like overly swing on them, and the rogue kind of has to take a second to like recover and then run them down and then swing a second time. So it gives a little bit of space, and there's a little opportunity for peel here. So this is good. Morningstar's animation has been slightly adjusted. We'll have to see what that is. The Chris Dagger animation has been changed again. Golden Viking Sword has been added. That's interesting. A Golden Felling Axe has been added. That is terrifying. Herbs have been added. They can be collected in the dungeons and used as material for crafting potions. Now, we know from prior notes, Q&A stuff, that they've had available to be put on the maps for a while, but it was something that they hadn't had enough time to test, according to SDF. So this is going to be an interesting addition where you can actually craft potions, I would assume, from the Alchemist. Magic Protection Potion has been added, so that's huge. This is another hit against Wizards, potentially. Warhammer has been added. Hopefully we can have a cleric use this. That is going to be something I'm going to be very, very interested in using. Several new magic resist armor items have been added, including the Ornate Jezerent, Runestone gloves, dashing boots, and dark leather leggings. So now we have base magic resist items, magic resist armor items that, again, go against like wizard gameplay. So a lot of this seems like it's anti-wizard stuff, which is going to be interesting to see in the current meta, because wizards, I thought, were in a like kind of an okay place. And I don't know if the nerfs were all that justified, if I'm being honest. I don't feel like wizards needed to get hit that heavy. I think it might have been a little bit too much, but we'll see. Elite and Nightmare Direwolf behavior patterns have been added. So this is interesting. This means that the Direwolf is going to have different attack animations. The spawn rate of gold ore has been lowered in normal ruins. So gold value, if you're somebody that looks at gold ingots, gold value could end up going up here because it seems like it's going to be in slightly less of a supply than before. The High Roller Cave Troll and Cyclops now have the chance to drop unique loot, and a treasure hoard has been added to their treasure room. So they, again, part of this patch is they're going to be putting maps on round robin rotation. So it doesn't make sense to have a boss room if it's going to be on a trios rotation or a duos rotation to then try and go and kill the troll and or Cyclops, depending on which one is up, and not have a treasure hoard in High Roller, right? That would end up causing problems. High Roller Skull Room, Golden Key Room, Rusty Key Room, and Mystical Gem Room now have a chance to spawn unique loot. All these rooms now have a treasure hoard. So this is huge too. It means that the mystical gem room, again, because we're talking about trios, and a rusty key room all having a treasure hoard in them is huge. The loot potential from these rooms is going to be a lot higher than what it was before. And them adding a treasure hoard to the High Roller Skull room in Inferno adds another treasure hoard onto the map where you can use a skull key, which, pro tip for those of you that are still here, check the throne in the throne room every time that you go into it. The one that's got the skeletal mage in front of it. The seat of the throne room, commonly, not commonly, but can spawn a skull key. It's either a skull key or it's a lockpick set. It does spawn a skull key, though. The countdown timer and player count display has been modified to make it harder for pre-teamers to exploit. So this is interesting. So what they're basically doing now is they're throwing off the number of player counts or they're not showing them or something like that. And the countdown timer, they're modifying it or hiding it so that people don't know what lobby they're in before they go in. So they're removing the identifying factors to gain an idea of which lobby they're in if they're actually ending up in the right ones or not. I think that's kind of a dub. You can no longer spectate players from other teams in high roller matches. So this is huge too. One of the larger strategies for people that are like teaming, trying to beat the system, is you would have a 3-man that would go in and then a solo queuer would go in at the same time. That one solo player would end up killing themselves on purpose and then spectate the lobby and tell the other team or tell their teammates where everyone else was on the map so they knew who to go for. This is huge. No longer spectating players from other teams in high roller matches is kind of odd, though. One of the ways that you tried to report people blatantly teaming was to watch them and then report them for having done so. So hopefully they have some more sophisticated means by which to watch against this stuff. The player reporting system for high roller matches has been updated. So maybe we'll see how this works. I don't know. A pre-teaming report function has been added. Server regions are now restricted based on your latency to those servers. So this is something that we saw coming too. They had already talked about how they were going to restrict ping to certain regions. We'll continue to adjust this feature based on feedback and our data. Latency to the server is ping. There's going to be a ping restricted limit to whichever servers you can play on. The most likely way is either it will prevent you from connecting to those server regions altogether if they're too far away, if your live ping is too high, or what it will more than likely do is what Tarkov does, where if your ping is too high, you connect to that server, it will put you in the game, but then if your ping stays above that threshold for say 5 seconds, it will auto kick you. Yes, there is a possibility for VPN. No, it's not likely that the VPN services will allow for endpoint ping stuff, where the VPN is the ping endpoint. Most often, companies like Iron Mace will block any VPN service that would allow for endpoint ping at the VPN and not pass it through to the client. New matchmaking system that allows solos, duos, and trios to play across all different maps in the game. The maps will rotate based on a timer. So this is what I said in my news video this morning. The way that this works is Ruins or Goblin Cave is solo, and then Ruins is duo, and Crypts is trio. Then it will rotate. So then Ruins will become solo, Crypts will be duo, and Goblin Cave will be trio. The carousel will keep turning. There will be a timer. Now, if you have a party size that is smaller than trio or duo, if you're a solo, you'll be able to go on any map you want. If you're a duo, you can go to the duo and trio map at that time. If you're a trio, you're stuck with whatever map you're running on. That's kind of it. Overall, I think this will be a W for people trying to get quests done because it allows for the solo population to take advantage of those maps. However, it will be an L for people that want to do boss farming on Crypts, which is historically the trios map, because solos are going to have a really hard time unless they're warlocks trying to kill the Lich, for instance. A duo can probably take out the bosses with the exception of Warlord. Warlord's still kind of a pain in the ass. He's pretty tough. But the other bosses and stuff, they're not that bad. And then obviously the GC rotation for trios is going to be a cakewalk. That is just going to end up being free farm, especially if you're a trio going into high roller GC. And you end up actually on the high roller map. There's going to be a lot of treasure hoard farming, and it should actually make for some interesting PvP because there's only going to be 3 teams on the whole of GC given the size of that map. So it could end up making for almost arena style gameplay in a way. Will be interesting to see. I know that there's some people that don't like this because they like spamming like their one map or whatever. I don't think this is going to change how the rank system works. I think that the rank system is still going to be map-based. I think it's just going to force players to have to rotate on them a little bit in High Roller if they want to do that, or bide their time and come back to those maps when they're solo or duo or trio or whatever it is in order to be able to get those rank points. That's just, it is what it is. The quest chapter system has been added. Additional chapters with new quests will be available in the future. This is interesting. Quest items can now be delivered one by one instead of all at once. Massive W. This saves so much inventory space. I talked to STF about this on the first day when they implemented the quest system. They said that they would take care of it. Big, huge dub. Added a class filter to the trade post. Good. Goblin Merchant now sells items that require gingerbread cookies. These special items requiring gingerbread cookies have a chance of giving a unique grade item, and at the worst will give a rare grade item. What I would say is for those of you that are looking to do some gamba, this could be huge for you. However, I will caution you against using gingerbread cookies if you haven't finished your quest chain yet. Santa's third quest needs 100 of these found in raid. So at least make sure that you have those set aside before you start gambling away the stuff that you find. Our first holiday sale, a 30% discount for the standard and hold the line editions until January 4th. So they're doing a holiday sale. So 30% off the game. For those of you that don't yet own Dark and Darker, come check out Dark and Darker. It's cheaper. Okay, and in the paragraph on the developer comments, we've added several anti-teaming measures with this update. Basecamp will no longer display the timer and player count to make it more difficult for pre-teamers to coordinate their sessions. We have modified the spectator mode for high roller dungeons so teamers can't use the feature to disclose the location of legitimate players. The reporting system has been updated so you can now report players you suspect of teaming. We've also implemented ping locks to several regions to make it harder for teamers to congregate on low-pop servers. We will continue to monitor and adjust these systems as we strive to ensure a clean environment. There. All right, cool. Yeah, so that's the patch notes, everybody. Thanks so much for coming by. I appreciate your eyeballs. Thank you for watching. If you would be so kind as to sub the channel here, if you're not already a sub, and if you enjoy the content, I would very much appreciate it. Do this kind of stuff all the time. As always, you can follow me on my socials at twitch.tv/onepeg, where I stream every day, or you can follow me on Twitter at onepegmg. All right? Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.